The storm hadn't let up for hours. Red lightning forked across the ash-gray sky as the winds howled through the twisted remains of landing site Echo on Iridex 4. Inside a half-collapsed comms bunker, Chief Terraform Engineer Kaela Thorne hunched over a terminal, the flickering holograph dancing across her rain-spattered visor. "Another energy spike quadrant 12, she muttered, wiping a smear of grit from her cheek. Her voice carried a faint Terran twang, sharpened by frustration and caffeine withdrawal. A nearby technician, barely out of cadet training, leaned over her shoulder. "Should we log it as seismic, Chief? Does it look seismic?" Kaela snapped, then softened when the kid flinched. "Sorry, no. Tag it Anomaly Class 5 and flag it for Dr. Alvin." Class 5. "That's I know what it is," she cut in, standing and stretching out the crick in her back. Her spine popped audibly. "And I also know whatever we buried under this planet's crust just woke up again." The kid hesitated. "You mean?" "The thing from the excavation site," Kaela gave a sharp grin that didn't reach her eyes. "I mean the thing they swore couldn't possibly have survived the implosion at Site Helion. You ever watch a man get liquefied by temporal feedback?" The poor cadet turned visibly green. Kaela regretted the joke a second too late. Outside, the wind picked up as another bolt of lightning cracked overhead. The perimeter sensors flared a warning in her HUD. Motion fast moving through the storm from the east. "You're not gonna believe this," someone shouted from the observation pit. "We've got a bogey incoming, solo, on foot." Kayla's eyebrows shot up. On foot, she rushed outside, boots splashing through the mud, the icy wind slapping her face like a wet towel. Through the downpour, a figure approached, staggering but purposeful. The silhouette was large armored, dragging something behind it. Her HUD scanned the form and froze. Subject identified Latarns. Rhys Calder. Kayla's breath caught in her throat. That was impossible. Rhys Calder had died 8 weeks ago during the containment breach at Helion. She'd seen the footage herself. Full body disintegration. No remains, no rescue. But here he was, slumped against the main gate, battered armor hanging off him in scorched plates. Helmet gone, soaked dark hair matted to his skull. "Thorne?" he rasped, voice gravelly from disuse. They lied. Kaela ran to him before her brain caught up. She grabbed his arm just as his knees buckled. He was heavier than she remembered, denser somehow and hot to the touch, like his body was running a furnace under the skin. "You're not supposed to be here," she whispered, brushing hair out of his face, ignoring the way her stomach did an unhelpful somersault. "You're dead, Rhys." "Yeah," he muttered. "Got better." And then he passed out cold. They moved him to the med bay, which was more of a glorified shipping crate with life support, and Kaela stood stiffly at the foot of the cot, arms crossed, while Dr. Alvin scowled at the vitals. "This isn't human," Alvin muttered, poking at the holographic readouts. "Not entirely, anyway. Elevated cellular regeneration, mitochondrial density off the charts, and his synaptic patterns. They're glowing. That's not metaphorical. They're literally emitting bioluminescence." Kaela rubbed the bridge of her nose. "Explain like I didn't minor in xenoneurology. Your zombie X is running on a hybrid system. Something rewired him, possibly rebuilt him. These readings shouldn't be possible. He should be melting." "Thanks," Kaela muttered. "That's comforting. And he's stable. Whatever's in him is adapting. Fast." A groan from the cot made both of them jump. Rhys's eyes opened bright, too bright, glinting, with a light that didn't belong in normal irises. His gaze locked on Kaela. "You've gotten taller," he croaked. Kaela blinked. "You've gotten sparkly." Dr. Alvin cleared his throat loudly and pulled up a scanner. "Let's talk sparkles. Do you remember what happened after Helion?" Rhys's face darkened, the humor fading. "I remember the breach. The containment chamber gave way. I was inside when it hit. The energy..." "It wasn't just energy." Kaela leaned in, every instinct tensing. "What was it?" Alive, Rhys whispered. "And it wanted to learn." He sat up suddenly, muscles flexing with unnatural smoothness. The scanner went haywire. "They're coming," he said urgently. "And what they want? We've already given them a way in." "Who's coming?" Kaela asked, heart racing. Rhys looked at her, and something flickered behind his glowing eyes. "The architects." Alvin paled. Kayla's hand automatically moved to the sidearm at her belt. That's a myth, an old Xenowar conspiracy. Genetic gardeners, evolutionary puppeteers. No, Rhys interrupted, shaking his head. They're real. They rebuilt me as proof, and now they want the rest of us. Before Kaela could respond, the perimeter alert blared again. Multiple contacts. Fast approach. Rhys's expression sharpened. Too late. They found me. Kaela swore under her breath. I hate being right. She turned to the door, drawing her sidearm as the compound trembled from approaching impacts. Stay down, Calder. Not really a staying down kind of guy, he replied, swinging his legs off the cot. I noticed. You missed me. Shut up and don't die again. He grinned crookedly as the lights flickered red and the first explosion rocked the outer walls. And that's when Kaela realized, dead or not, Rhys Calder had come back changed, and the war had followed him home. The compound erupted in chaos. Outside, the screech of impact pods tearing through metal echoed through the valley like thunder. Kaela ducked instinctively as debris rained from the ceiling, her ears ringing with the sharp whine of emergency sirens. South wall breach, someone shouted over the intercom. Unidentified's inbound. Rhys moved before the order even finished transmitting. He grabbed a discarded tactical harness and slipped it on with practiced efficiency, the synthetic weave stretching across his broad shoulders like it had missed him. Kaela tried not to stare. Failed. Pretty sure you're still on medical lockdown, she muttered, checking the charge on her sidearm. I got better. Remember right. The died and came back glowing clause. Totally forgot that one in the manual. He gave her that half smirk again, and something about it tugged sharply at a place she'd spent the last 3 years welding shut. This was not the time. Outside screams rang out. Blaster fire cut through the rain. Kaela reached for her comms. Command, this is Thorne. Lock down all non-essential access corridors. Reroute power to containment-based shields and send anything that can shoot to the perimeter. Now copy that, Chief, a panicked voice replied. But we're already losing people. Rhys reached the weapons locker and kicked it open. Most of the gear inside was mining-grade or atmospheric survey tech. Barely enough to deal with smugglers, let alone whatever was coming. Kaela reached in beside him, pulled out a kinetic scattergun, and handed him a power core. Just like old times, he loaded it with a snap. Except this time, I glow in the dark. A tremor rippled through the ground and Kayla's HUD flared a warning. Massive biosignature. Center of the landing pad. Whatever had arrived wasn't subtle. Rhys peered through the cracked blast doors. Oh, hell. Kaela stepped up beside him and saw it. The thing standing in the storm was tall, maybe 3 meters thin, and skeletal with plating that looked like black glass woven through a spiderweb of organic tendrils. No visible eyes, just rows of shifting slits across a featureless head like vents that pulsed with violet light. Around it moved a dozen others, shorter hunched. Human in shape but twisted, arms too long, spines curved in unnatural angles. Their skin shimmered with the same eerie violet glow. Kaela whispered, "What am I looking at?" Rhys answered without looking away. Them, the architect's tools, their harvesters, or the failed ones anyway. You're telling me those things used to be people. They tried to make others like me. It didn't go well. As if on cue, the creatures surged forward. Rhys opened fire. His first shot hit the lead creature square in the chest. It staggered but didn't fall. A second blast tore through its shoulders, sending it tumbling. The rest didn't even slow down. Kaela dropped to one knee and unloaded her pistol into the nearest cluster. The shots sparked off skin that shimmered like liquid metal. One of them leapt too fast. Rhys pivoted, grabbed it midair, and slammed it into the floor with a force that cracked the concrete. Kaela stared. Okay, that's new. Rhys didn't answer. His eyes were lit now, glowing brighter with each movement. The patterns beneath his skin pulsed like living circuitry. His aim was too precise, his reflexes too fast. And yet, his face was still his. Determined, focused, human, mostly. Another wave of enemies rushed them. Kaela fired until her weapon overheated, cursing as the warning light blinked red. One of the creatures tackled her. She hit the wall, hard air knocked from her lungs. Its clawed hand reached for her visor. Then a blur of motion, Rhys was there. One punch. The thing dropped, its skull caved in. He caught her before she slid to the ground. You good? I've had better Tuesdays. I think it's Thursday. Oh, great. I've been unconscious that long. He helped her to her feet. His touch lingered a moment too long. Kaela swallowed, hard eyes flicking away. A voice crackled through comms. Chief Thorne, we've got wounded piling up and evac ships grounded by interference. You've got 5 minutes until the core reactor hits redline. Kaela looked at Rhys. We can't hold this position. We need a miracle. Rhys turned the reins, streaking down his glowing skin face, tense. There's a fallback. She blinked. What? He nodded toward the cliffs behind the compound. There's a vault, old deep seal facility from the first terraforming cycle. I remember it. There's a path through the ravine. I can get us there. Kaela hesitated. How would you remember that? We didn't even uncover that in the site maps. I told you. His eyes flared. They rebuilt me, and they didn't delete the blueprints. You're starting to sound real unsettling, Calder. Only starting? She rolled her eyes. Fine. We'll route survivors that way. But we still have to shut down the interference or our distress call won't go out. Rhys reached into the locker, pulled out a disruptor grenade, and handed it to her. You'll have 30 seconds of signal, just long enough. Kaela stared at the device. I hate this plan. Yeah, he said with a crooked grin. That's how you know it's mine. By the time they reached the core tower, the compound was on the brink of collapse. Fires burned in the east wing. Power conduits arced and exploded. The harvesters were everywhere, climbing walls like insects hunting survivors. Kaela activated the beacon, watching as the sky flared. A ripple of clean signal pulsed outward. She keyed the emergency SOS frequency and screamed into the mic. This is Chief Kaela Thorne, Iridex 4 site. Echo hostile contact. We need evac support and orbital eyes now. A voice responded immediately, clear military. Copy that. Task Force Zephyr en route. ETA 12 minutes. 12 minutes. She turned. We have to move. But Rhys was standing still, staring at the horizon. What is it? She asked. He blinked slowly. They're listening. Who the architects? Kaela opened her mouth to speak, and then the world shuddered. A low tone vibrated the air deeper than sound. Beneath her feet, the ground cracked, and in the distance, something massive rose from the soil. A monolith of glowing black crystal, pulsing with the same patterns that crawled beneath Rhys's skin. Oh no, Kaela whispered. What is that? Rhys turned to her, and for the first time since he returned, his face looked afraid. It's not just a transmitter, it's a door. Kaela couldn't look away from the towering spire that had erupted from the ground. The way it pulsed deep violet and electric blue was hypnotic. Her visor struggled to filter the signal. It wasn't light in the traditional sense. It was information. Structured patterns etched into air meant for something else to read. Or someone. Tell me that's not what it looks like, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Rhys exhaled slowly, eyes locked on the glowing structure. If it looks like a giant alien tuning fork that might open a hole in reality, then yeah, that's exactly what it is. The scream of atmospheric entry tore through the air. Kaela's HUD flashed an alert. Task Force Zephyr had broken through orbit and was approaching fast. 12 minutes. No 10 now. She snapped back into motion. We need to reroute the evac path. That thing's going to fry the sky if it goes active. We can't let it broadcast. Rhys was already ahead of her, sprinting across the unstable terrain toward the ravine entrance. His movements were disturbingly fluid, like he wasn't quite limited by joints anymore. Kaela followed, slipping once in the mud and catching herself against a jagged slab of broken ferrocrete. Hey, Calder, she called through the wind on a scale of 1 to, oh my gods, we're all gonna die. Where are we right now? He glanced back at her with that annoying calm. About a 9, but I'm working on it. The ravine yawned open before them, narrow and steep. Beneath the layers of rock, ancient access tunnels snaked beneath the surface remnants of the first terraforming rigs, long buried by planetary storms and bureaucratic neglect. Rhys skidded down first, then held up a hand to help her. She took it, and the moment their fingers touched, her body tingled. Your skins, she started. Conductive now, he said, not meeting her eyes. It reacts to touch. Yeah, well, maybe give a girl a little warning next time before you shoot her nervous system full of fireworks. Noted. They entered the access tunnel, the walls coated in condensation and years of geological pressure. Kaela activated her wrist torch, illuminating faded hazard symbols and rusted conduits. Somewhere above the spire pulsed again, and the tunnel ceiling shivered like it was made of paper. "We can reach the fallback point from here," Rhys said, "but we need to disable the relay matrix embedded in that tower. If it opens the channel fully..." Yeah, game over. Everyone gets assimilated, and you turn into a glowy demigod with less charm." Rhys snorted. "Ouch. You are a little less funny than I remember. That's the near-death experience. Kinda dims your sense of humor." They reached a blast door embedded deep in the rock. Kaela punched in an override sequence and prayed the ancient mechanics hadn't rusted through. With a grinding groan, it slid open. Inside was a control room, dusty but intact. And something else. A long metal pod, sleek, alien, not from any terraform blueprint she'd ever seen. Rhys approached it slowly. "I remember this. You do, I saw it. When I was on the other side." Kaela frowned. Other side of what he crouched next to the pod and pressed his palm against a smooth panel. The thing responded instantly, lights flickered on, and the lid hissed open. Inside was a crystalline device humming with energy. Symbols lit up along its surface, same as the ones flickering beneath Rhys's skin. "What is it?" she asked. "A stabilizer," he replied. "They use these to control the flow of integration. The failed vanguards, they didn't have one. Integration as in what they did to you," he nodded. "But mine wasn't forced. I think they were watching, testing. And when the Chimera core blew, I got caught in the anomaly. But instead of breaking me, it merged." Kaela stared at the device. "And if you use this one?" Rhys stood, eyes darkening. "I might be able to shut the tower down. Without turning into soup." "That's not very reassuring. I'm trying not to promise anything I can't deliver." He turned toward the auxiliary terminal. "Can you patch the station's local field grid into the uplink node?" Kaela blinked. "With half my tools missing no schematic and a massive alien monolith punching signals into orbit." "Sure, give me 10 minutes and a miracle." He looked at her. "We've only got 7. She sighed, rolled her eyes, and started working. The console hissed and sparked under her hands as she bypassed fail-safes and rerouted decayed power relays. Rhys knelt beside her, studying the lines of code with intense focus. As they worked in tandem, their hands brushed several times, each time her skin lit with that same electric tingle. "You okay?" he asked softly. Kaela didn't look at him. "You're still you, right?" There was a pause. "I think so," he said finally. "But I see things differently now. I feel things differently. Information flows where instincts used to be. Patterns are clearer. But when I look at you, Kaela..." He trailed off. "What, you're the only constant." She stopped typing, looked at him. The words hit harder than they should have. Before either of them could say anything else, the entire tunnel trembled violently. The tower was activating. "Relays syncing," Kaela shouted. "Signal's about to spike. Then I need to get up there." Rhys grabbed the stabilizer core and ran. Kaela hesitated, then sprinted after him. They emerged from the tunnel as the tower crackled with energy. The sky above had turned a deep violet, swirling with clouds that weren't clouds, structured fields of something else. The signal wasn't just broadcasting, it was listening. Rhys climbed the platform steps 2 at a time, the stabilizer glowing in his hands. The tower flared columns of light spiraling upward. Creatures clustered at the base as if drawn by a beacon. One of them turned toward Kaela, screeching. "Not now," she snarled, firing a burst into its chest. Rhys reached the uplink node and slammed the stabilizer into the port. A shockwave burst outward, flattening everything. Kaela hit the ground hard, her visor flickering, and then silence. The tower's light dimmed. The sky cleared. The creatures stopped moving. Kaela staggered to her feet. "Rhys." He stood at the top of the platform, motionless, glowing faintly. The patterns across his skin pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. He looked down at her, breathing hard. "You did it," she said, climbing up toward him. "You shut it down." He didn't speak, just stared at his hands. "I don't know what I'm becoming," he said softly, "but I can still feel you, so I know I haven't lost everything." Kaela stepped closer, reached up and touched his cheek. His skin was warmer now. The lines of light danced beneath it like constellations. "You're still Rhys Calder," she whispered. "And as long as you don't start trying to assimilate my dog, we'll figure this out." He laughed hoarse and real. Then the comm crackled. "Evac inbound," said Task Force Zephyr. "Prepare for orbital lift." Kaela looked out over the compound, burned broken but not lost. Rhys stood beside her, steady and glowing. And something told her this was only the beginning. The evac ship roared overhead, its descent throwing up cyclones of dust that swirled around the ruined compound. Kaela shielded her eyes with one arm, while keeping the other braced against Rhys's side as the stabilizer core finally dimmed and detached from the tower's uplink with a hiss of pressure. "You good to move?" she shouted over the turbulence. "Define good," he shouted back, swaying slightly. Conscious, upright, not actively combusting, he managed a lopsided grin. 2 out of 3 is not bad. The dropship settled in the cratered landing zone with a solid thump. Ramp extended. Troopers poured out, sweeping the area with rifles. One of them, a woman in standard Zephyr armor, with a lieutenant's stripes and 0 patience, made a beeline for them. "Which of you is Thorne?" Kaela raised her hand. "And which is Calder?" Rhys blinked. "I guess that depends on how you mean that." "Save the jokes, glowy boy," the lieutenant snapped. "Command wants both of you debriefed, ASAP, preferably before you melt through the bulkhead." Rhys muttered, "Can't take you anywhere." Kaela sighed. "We'll go. But I want survivors accounted for and that tower incinerated." Lieutenant Scarla's visor flared. "You'll have to file a requisition for that." Kaela took a step forward, covered in grime burns and stress. "If that thing twitches again, I will blow it up myself with whatever's left in my sock." There was a long pause. "Copy that," Scarla said carefully. "Tower will be neutralized." As they were escorted up the ramp, Kaela glanced back one last time at the spire's remains. The glowing monolith was dormant now, but even in death it pulsed faintly. A heartbeat from something bigger, something watching. They didn't make it to debriefing right away. Rhys collapsed 15 minutes into the flight. Kaela caught him before he hit the floor, shouting for the medical team as they rushed him to the onboard infirmary. The ship's AI triaged him within seconds and promptly freaked out. Warning it blared in a calm voice, "Subject's biometrics incompatible with standard human parameters. Unknown neural interference detected. Please remove any biotic weapons from the medbay." "He's not a weapon," Kaela snapped, hovering beside the examination bed. "He's a person." The ship didn't respond, but Rhys's vitals did. They fluctuated wildly as the patterns under his skin began to ripple again, faster than before. His whole body tensed. Eyes opened, glowing not green but a shifting kaleidoscope of blue and gold. He looked at her like he was seeing through her. "Kaela!" His voice was strained. "They're not done. Who the architects?" He nodded slowly. "There's another relay site. 2 jumps from here. Still active." "How do you know they showed me?" He swallowed hard. "Or maybe I saw it through their eyes. I'm not sure anymore." Kaela reached out and took his hand. It was warm, strong, still his. She forced a breath past the knot in her chest. "You're okay. You're with me now." That seemed to anchor him. His breathing slowed. The light in his eyes faded to a soft, familiar glow. "Still with you," he murmured. Kaela didn't move even when the med team arrived, muttering and swearing as they tried to read his vitals. She stayed at his side even as reports buzzed in from other outposts. At least 2 were offline. Communication severed. No survivors. The pattern was beginning again. And this time, Rhys wasn't just a survivor. He was a variable the architects hadn't planned for. The debriefing didn't go well. Rear Admiral Yavik of the Earth Colonization Fleet stared at them like they were defective cargo, his fingers steepled beneath his chin. His voice was like gravel being poured into a blender. "You're telling me," he said slowly, "that this tower was a transmission device built by a species we have no verifiable record of, designed to accelerate forced evolution through quantum pattern interference, and that my officer," he pointed at Rhys, "is now the human equivalent of a USB stick." Rhys, seated with a medical patch across his temple, leaned back and crossed his arms. "I'm more of a firewalled, sentient, semi-radioactive external drive. But sure." Yavik did not smile. Kaela pinched the bridge of her nose. Admiral, what we saw was real. The patterns, the creatures, this isn't isolated. Calder intercepted a secondary pulse sequence before the tower collapsed. That means there's another site. Possibly more. Yavik turned to Rhys again. And you're just what feeling these signals now. You psychic, Rhys shrugged. More like a very irritable antenna. You're lucky the board didn't order you quarantined. I was dead for a while, Rhys said. Maybe give me a coupon or something instead. Enough, Yavik growled. He stood. You're both being assigned to a recon mission. Locate the secondary relay. Confirm presence. And if possible, destroy it. Kaela narrowed her eyes. You're sending us back out there with no backup. You're the only ones who've seen this up close. And Rhys seems to be our only link to their network. So yes, you're going. And if we refuse, Rhys asked casually, then I'll lock you in a stasis pod and dissect you in 37 delightful pieces. Kaela leaned close to Rhys and whispered, charming guy. Really inspires loyalty, Rhys whispered back. Remind me to set his coffee machine on fire later. The shuttle they were assigned was small, sleek, and built for stealth. Kaela took the pilot's chair without question, while Rhys dropped into the co-pilot seat, his fingers twitching on the console like the ship itself was talking to him. You're not going to start merging with the dash right, she said. Tempting. But no. Good. I like having seats made of actual material. Hey, he said, mock offended. You were the one touching my cheek like it was a sensor array last time. Kaela flushed. That was medical. Sure, shut up, Calder. His grin was insufferable. They launched in silence, cutting through the black, with barely a ripple in local space. The stars stretched around them, vast and uncaring. Kaela glanced sideways. So, if you are some kind of upgraded alien data sponge, yes, do I need to start calling you sir only, if you mean it sarcastically? She smirked. Deal. The ship hummed around them. Somewhere out there, the architects were already moving. But this time, so were they. And whatever was waiting on the other side of that signal, Kaela Thorne and Rhys Calder would meet it together. The journey to the second relay site took 6 hours through uncharted sectors. Most of the flight was quiet, at least outwardly. Inside the cockpit, Kaela tracked navigational anomalies while Rhys sat with his eyes closed, occasionally twitching, like someone halfway between sleep and seizure. The strange part, he wasn't asleep. He was listening. She didn't know how else to describe it. The patterns beneath his skin pulsed faintly, reacting to something invisible. Some data stream not carried by light or sound, but by intention, purpose. Whatever it wasn't friendly. You still breathing over there? Kaela asked, feigning nonchalance as she adjusted the flight vector. Mostly, Rhys murmured without opening his eyes. They're whispering again. Okay, first you've got to stop saying things like that when I'm flying. And second, what are they whispering coordinates? Warnings? Instructions, maybe? It's hard to tell. Kaela raised an eyebrow. You're sure it's them? Not, early onset hallucinations from all that cosmic radiations cooking your brain? Rhys opened his eyes. Pretty sure. Hallucinations usually don't come with star maps. She stared at him. He sighed and tapped into the nav console. Overlaying now. A second later, a string of coordinates lit up across the screen. They weren't anywhere in official Alliance star charts, but Kaela recognized the pattern. They were arranged in Fibonacci spirals. Nested symmetry. The kind no natural star cluster would form. Oh, great, she muttered. The creepy math checks out. And there's more, Rhys said. The signal is getting stronger the closer we get. Meaning, Rhys's voice dropped, meaning they know we're coming. The second relay site wasn't on a planet. It wasn't even in a system. It hung in the middle of an ancient debris field, miles of shattered vessels and failed habitats slowly orbiting a dead microstar. Kaela stared in disbelief as their ship drifted silently past the wreckage. This is a graveyard. Rhys nodded. They use places like this to hide things they don't want found. Kaela swept the sensors. No life signs, no heat signatures. Just a big ball of very old, very dead metal. And her screen pinged. Hold up. There's something emitting low-frequency pulses. There. That station. It was a massive lopsided relic that looked like someone had taken a moon base, stretched it out like clay, and stapled antennae to its sides. Black scarred, partially melted. The center flickered with purple-blue energy. Kaela's stomach tightened. That's our relay. Rhys tilted his head, eyes glowing softly. And it's active. Terrific, she muttered. Should we knock first? No need. Rhys stood. They're already opening the door. Kaela glanced at the screen, and sure enough, a docking port on the ruined station hissed open like a yawning mouth. She turned to Rhys. Do you remember this place? He hesitated. I don't think I've been here physically, but I know what's inside. Let me guess, disturbing tech failed experiments and possibly a psychic scream hallway. Exactly that. They suited up. Kaela in her standard issue recon armor. Rhys in something sleeker, adaptive, plating the Alliance had given him before they realized he could tank bullets better than the suits themselves. Inside the station it was cold. Too quiet. No lights, no systems active except the relay core itself humming faintly in the central chamber. They passed through corridors filled with the remnants of things once human armor pieces, shattered visors, twisted exosuits grown over with dark sinewy strands like fossilized fungus. Kaela kept her rifle up. Okay, serious question. Why are alien horror stations always moist? Rhys glanced at a growth pulsing on the wall. Aesthetic choice, they reached the core. It looked like the one from Iridex 4, but larger. Older. Its energy wasn't just pulsing, it was beating, like a heart. And as Rhys approached, it responded. The walls brightened. Symbols emerged in glowing filigree along every surface. Back up, Kaela warned. This is feeling real Temple of Doom right now. Rhys stepped onto the platform at the center of the room. The patterns beneath his skin pulsed in harmony with the relay's light. Then something spoke. Not in words, not in sound, but through Rhys. He staggered, grabbing the edge of the console. What is it? Kaela shouted, running to him. His voice was hollow, echoing. The architects are not the beginning. She froze. What does that mean? There was another. Before them. They're not building evolution. They're trying to fix something they broke. The light intensified. Rhys's body jerked once. Kaela grabbed his arm, felt heat radiate from him in waves. Rhys, you're burning up. He gritted his teeth. I can stop it, but I need to interface. That thing is a half-dead alien brain, she barked. You don't interface with that, you nuke it and run. He looked at her, and this time his expression wasn't just focused, it was scared. If I don't, they'll finish what they started. You saw the graveyard outside. You think that was from war. That was an upgrade failure. They broke entire fleets trying to create a hybrid like me. Kaela's breath caught. And now they know it can work, Rhys said, voice soft. They'll come back. Take more. So what you plug into that thing and let them fry your brain. Not if you're holding on, she blinked. What your touch grounds me. It did last time. If I go in, I need you there. Kaela stared at him. Everything in her screamed this was a bad idea. Dangerous. Reckless. But then again, so was loving someone like Rhys Calder. She stepped up beside him and took his hand. Don't make me regret this, she whispered. He smiled. You won't. As they touched the relay core together, the chamber exploded with light and the architect's signal came flooding in. Kaela's mind fractured. For a moment she saw it all. Galaxies spinning backward, DNA strands reshaping, civilizations born in cradles of black glass and wiped out with a single breath. Beings made of pure design, rewriting reality with equations older than stars. Rhys was at the center of it, screaming but whole, changing again, and something else noticed. A presence, vast, cold, hungry. Kaela felt it stretch toward them, curious, then angry. We woke something, Rhys shouted across the collapsing psychic storm. Yeah, I noticed. Can you pull me back? She clenched her jaw, dug her fingers into his hand. Only if you promise to stop volunteering for brain-frying cosmic fusions, I'll try. Light collapsed around them, and suddenly they were back in their bodies, gasping on the cold metal floor. Kaela coughed. What the hell was that? Rhys was pale, sweating. The lines beneath his skin now flickered in strange, irregular pulses. They're coming, he said, voice shaking. Not just the architects. Something worse. Kaela swallowed hard. Define worse. Rhys looked at her, and in his eyes was the fear of someone who had seen extinction. They're called the Scourge. and the architects were running from them. The return trip was anything but quiet. Rhys hadn't said more than a few words since the relay shut down, and the patterns glowing beneath his skin, usually smooth and pulsing, like a second heartbeat, now twitched in chaotic pulses. He sat in the co-pilot seat, unmoving, jaw clenched like he was fighting something inside himself. Kaela kept glancing over, pretending to check the ship's diagnostics while really watching him. "Still with me?" she asked gently. His eyes flicked toward her. They were brighter than before, sharper, alien. "Yeah," he said slowly, as if the word didn't quite fit anymore. "But something came back with us. Something like—" He hesitated. "Not a voice. Not exactly. More like a pressure in my mind. Like I've been tagged." Kaela tightened her grip on the yoke. "Tagged by who? I think it's the scourge," he murmured. "The thing we felt during the interface, it didn't just notice me. It marked me." The cockpit fell silent. Kaela stared ahead, watching stars streak by in long silver lines. The ship hummed beneath them, unaware of the existential dread sitting in its seats. "Okay," she said at last, trying to keep her voice steady. "So what does that mean for us? I don't know yet." "Great. Love flying blind into intergalactic doom." Rhys chuckled weakly. "I'm sure we'll wing it." Kaela shot him a sideways look. "You make one more pun while radiating cosmic dread, and I will turn this ship around." His grin faltered, but only slightly. Noted. When they arrived at the outer rim of Alliance-controlled space, the system comms lit up with a red-coded priority request. Before Kaela could even hail control, the ship was intercepted by a larger vessel. The Valiant Warden, a dreadnought-class carrier, retrofitted with diplomatic quarters, science decks, and a truly ridiculous number of coffee dispensers. They were brought aboard with a polite but firm escort. Rhys was scanned, prodded, and monitored by a nervous-looking medical team. Kaela followed him everywhere, snarling at anyone who got too handsy with the glowing half-human. "You touch him without permission again," she told one particularly invasive analyst, "and I will rewire your intestines into a data cable." The analyst opted to back off. Eventually, they were summoned to a high-security meeting on the upper deck. The usual suspects were there: Admiral Javik, looking twice as tired as before, Counselor Selene of the Xenoscientific Bureau, flanked by advisors, and Dr. Raina Ives, an exoarchaeologist whose reputation for bluntness nearly matched Kaela's. Selene opened with practiced calm. "We've reviewed the relay data you recovered, and frankly, we're disturbed." "You're welcome," Kaela muttered. Selene ignored her. "The pattern architecture is unlike anything in our known records. It predates even the earliest architect signal artifacts, and the reference to the scourge Dr. Ives cut in matches what we've seen in deep ruins from the Endelian collapse, an entire civilization wiped in one cycle. We always thought it was war. But now," Javik leaned forward. "So what the hell are we dealing with?" Rhys's voice was low but clear. "The architects weren't gods. They were engineers. They tried to build stability into evolution, but they screwed up. The scourge was the result, a feedback effect, a weaponized entropy." Ives blinked. "That's poetic." "It's what I saw," he said simply. "The scourge doesn't destroy out of malice. It feeds on complexity. It unravels." "And now it's aware of you," Selene said carefully. Kaela stepped between them, arms crossed. "So what you think he's infected, contaminated, more like connected," Ives offered. "A signal buoy, and maybe a solution." Javik stood. "That's why we're rerouting the task force to the Concordia array. It's the only place with quantum entanglement relays strong enough to reach the Helion core, the origin point of the anomaly that changed you, Calder." "And then what?" Rhys asked. "We send a counter-signal," Selene said. "Something that can overwrite the architect imprint and block the scourge's path." Kaela narrowed her eyes. "You mean use Rhys as a damn antenna again?" "We mean save the galaxy," Selene replied smoothly. Kaela turned to Rhys. "You don't have to do this." He looked at her for a long time, and then quietly, "Yes, I do." Later that night, they stood alone in one of the ship's observation domes. The stars wheeled overhead in silent procession. Kaela leaned against the railing, staring out. "Why is it always you?" she asked softly. Rhys joined her, resting his hands beside hers. "Wrong place, wrong time, or maybe exactly right." She didn't smile. I watched you die, she said. I felt it. For months I thought, hell, I hoped I was wrong. But you were gone. And now you're back. But you're not. Not completely. I know. She turned to him. Does it scare you? What you're becoming? He hesitated. Yes. But not as much as losing myself. Or you. That made her heart stutter. You did lose me, she said quietly. When Hellion fell. I found you again. You found a version of me who's scared of getting close to someone who might literally explode into space goo. He smiled faintly. You'll keep me anchored, remember? Kaela's voice dropped. And if I can't, then at least I go knowing I had someone worth fighting for. She didn't answer, not with words. She stepped forward and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was soft, uncertain at first, then firmer, warmer. She felt the glow beneath his skin shift, reacting to her, sinking to her heartbeat. For one moment, all the chaos, architects, scourge, politics fell away. It was just them, Rhys and Kaela. When they finally pulled apart, she whispered, You ever do something stupidly heroic again without telling me first, I'll kill you myself. Rhys smiled, noted. The Concordia array loomed ahead, an orbital lattice of immense crystalline pylons wrapped around a dying white dwarf. It shimmered with unnatural light built to channel signals across impossible distances. The moment they docked, Kaela felt the air shift. The same static from Iridex, the same hum beneath her bones. The scourge was near. Inside the main chamber, Rhys approached the core relay, like a man walking toward his own execution. Kaela stood close, fingers wrapped tight around his. Engineers scrambled to stabilize the uplink. Ready, one of them asked. No, Kaela answered. But do it anyway. The relay lit. Rhys cried out but didn't fall. The symbols along his arms blazed. His eyes flared gold. The station trembled. Then something else responded. Not the architects. Something older. Vast. The scourge. It screamed into the relay, and the chamber lights died. One of the pylons outside exploded in a shock wave of unfiltered entropy. Too strong, the engineers shouted. It's pushing through. Rhys gritted his teeth. Kaela cut the feed. I can't. You're the conduit. Then help me shut it down from the inside. Her breath caught. You want me to go in there with you? He turned to her, light flickering across his skin, a god and a man all at once. I can't hold it alone. She stared at him, heart thundering, then stepped forward. Together. And they plunged into the storm. The moment Kaela stepped into the signal field with Rhys, the world fractured. Not just visually, existentially. Time ceased to move forward in a straight line. Past, future, memory, and imagination all folded into a single looping thread, wrapping around them like a noose woven from starlight. She blinked and saw herself. As a child digging through scraps of broken terraforming drones in a Martian backfield. As a cadet punching her superior during a test flight gone wrong. As a woman crying alone in a ruined lab after Hellion fell. But most of all, she saw him. Rhys Calder, laughing across a console, bleeding out in a shattered containment ring, glowing half-alien, staring at her like she was the only constant left in a dissolving universe. Kaela, his voice echoed in every direction. You have to focus. This place, it's not real. I know, she said, spinning, but it feels real. That's the point. It's the scourge. This is how it infects, not through force, but entropy. It unravels truth by overwhelming it with memory, emotion, chaos. Sounds like half the dates I've been on. Remind me never to date anyone you've dated. Kaela smirked even as the walls around them bled into stars. She looked down and realized they were floating. The space was vast, infinite, and impossibly alive. Tendrils of data spiraled around them, pulsing with distorted architect signatures, like the relay was trying to rewrite them, molecule by molecule. We're in the signal field's inner substrate, Rhys said. The part that interfaces with quantum identity. English, Rhys. We're standing in the architect version of a user login screen. Ah, got it. And I don't have the password. You are the password now. Kaela rolled her eyes. Of course I am. Suddenly the space around them rippled. Something vast and cold passed by, formless, endless. Not watching them exactly, but aware. The scourge. Don't react, Rhys whispered. It can't attack directly. Not unless we engage. You just brought me into a mental dimension where a reality-devouring intelligence can see us, and now you want me to play dead. Yes. I hate this plan. Rhys reached for her hand. Trust me. Kaela hesitated, then took it. A ripple of clarity spread from their touch waves of stabilized energy that pushed back against the collapsing signal. Around them, the fragments of memory froze, shivered, and then began to reassemble. Kaela gasped. We're rewriting it, you are, Rhys said. Your presence, your normalcy, it's anchoring the field, re-establishing human logic in architect code. Okay, so I'm the common sense, and you're what the alien USB drive, Rhys grinned. We make a great pair, the Scourge screamed. Not sound, but an absence of sound. A pressure that made Kaela's bones ache and her memories flicker. For a second, she was back on Helion watching Rhys die. No, she said aloud, forcing the memory back into place. That's not now. That's not real. Her voice cut through the signal like a blade. The environment around them shimmered, then cracked. You're resisting it, Rhys said in awe. No enhancements. No architect imprint. Just you. Kaela looked at him breathless. Maybe I was built different. The light pulsed once, then imploded. A vortex opened around them, dark and hungry. Rhys grabbed her shoulders. This is it. The Scourge is trying to reabsorb the signal. We can't fight it with force. But if we stabilize the pattern, if we inject ourselves into it, are you suggesting we overwrite a galactic entropy field with emotional resonance? Rhys hesitated. Yeah, Kaela blinked. You're lucky you're pretty. And then she kissed him. Not for drama, not for science, but because it felt like the only real thing left. The signal responded. The light around them erupted, no longer chaotic, but synchronized. The tendrils of Scourge entropy recoiled from the stabilizing pattern they created. Their combined presence, two humans, one half evolved, the other stubbornly unmodified, intertwined through something far more powerful than code connection. The vortex howled in frustration as the core of the relay back in the real world began to collapse inward. Kaela felt the pull. We need to get out, she gasped. Rhys nodded. Brace yourself. He tightened his grip on her, and then everything flipped inside out. They woke up on the Concordia Array's platform, gasping, bathed in smoke and alarms. The chamber had collapsed, relay sparking. Engineers scrambled to contain the energy backlash. Kaela sat up, wincing, then turned to find Rhys beside her, breathing hard, glowing less, but still glowing. You okay, she croaked. Define okay. Alive. Not dripping alien goo. Still sarcastic. He grinned. Then yeah. Dr. Ives appeared with a medical team in tow. What the hell did you two just do? That signal field is gone. Like burned out of the substrate. Kaela sat up straighter. We rewrote it. Forced a pattern it couldn't destabilize. Yavik's voice crackled through overhead speakers. Concordia reports ripple effect across the array. Secondary architect signals across 6 sectors just ceased. Kaela looked at Rhys. Did we just... We pushed it back, he said. Temporarily, it's not gone. But now it knows we're not prey. Ives blinked. How Kaela stood. Her voice was hoarse but steady. Turns out the one thing the architects and the Scourge never planned for was 2 stupid humans who refused to let go of each other. Rhys took her hand again. The glow beneath his skin was soft now, like embers instead of fire. Manageable. Balanced. For the first time in what felt like forever, Kaela breathed and smiled. Later, as the Concordia Array floated in the silence of post-battle calm, Kaela and Rhys sat in the observation deck once again, watching the stars. So she said, sipping from a mug of something probably caffeinated. Still glowing. Still connected to space horror. What's next? Rhys leaned back beside her. Well, Council's forming a new task force, multi-species initiative, to study and contain architect tech. I'm their favorite science experiment. And me, they want you too. Liaison. Lead engineer. Galactic anchor of sanity. Kaela snorted. Wow, they're desperate. He looked at her. So, you in? She didn't answer right away, just turned to him, resting her head on his shoulder. Yeah, she said softly. I'm in. Above them, stars shimmered, distant, ancient, unblinking. Somewhere out there, the Scourge still waited. But now it wasn't waiting for victims. It was waiting for them, and they would be ready together. The Starliner Eclipse wing drifted silently above the storm-swept moon of Varela Prime, its sleek frame encased in the defensive shimmer of experimental, architect-modified shielding. Inside its command deck, a table of officials, soldiers, and scientists from 5 different species sat in restless silence, all eyes fixed on the tall woman at the head of the room. Kaela Thorne cleared her throat. 3 weeks ago, we made contact with a force we've only ever understood through whispers and wreckage. The scourge is real. It's intelligent. It doesn't destroy in anger. It consumes through unraveling. Civilization by civilization. Idea by idea. She pressed a button on her console. A hologram of a vast, distorted entity bloomed into view, surrounded by fractal static. Tentacles of data stretched outward, destabilizing star charts and rewriting physics models in real time. And now she continued, it knows we're aware of it. But more than that, we touched it. We forced it to retreat. Murmurs echoed across the chamber. Rhys stood beside her in his newly issued uniform, a blend of Alliance navy black and the pale, sigil-marked fabric of architect origin. He looked as human as ever, but Kaela knew better. She could feel the low hum beneath his skin whenever she touched him. The signal never left it, just adapted. Admiral Yavik rose. This new task force, the Interlinked Defense Accord? Who's leading it? Kaela looked at Rhys, then turned back to the Admiral. We are? They were given a ship. Not just a ship, the Nova Stride, custom-built using human engineering, Xenary quantum engines, and an architect frame recovered from the Iridex debris field. She was fast, agile, and unnervingly sentient. She hums when I'm near, Rhys noted, resting his hand on the command console. You've got that effect on everything with a power source, Kaela muttered. The bridge was a marvel of integration. Human control surfaces layered over shifting glyphs that Rhys could read almost instinctively now. And every chair was ergonomically perfect, which Kaela insisted was the real win. Where to first, he asked as she slid into the captain's chair beside him. We follow the residual signals, she said. There's still echo data from the relay collapse. Breadcrumbs. Somewhere out there the scourge has a foothold. Rhys frowned. And we go poke it with a stick, scientific stick. Big difference. Kaela leaned back. We're not going in alone. The new Accord fleet is mobilizing. And besides, she reached over and casually laced her fingers through his. I've got my backup. He squeezed her hand. I'm honored to be your terrifying alien sidekick. Damn right you are. Their first mission took them to the void between the spiral arms, uncharted space long thought empty. But architect records buried deep within Rhys's neural pathways suggested otherwise. They found it drifting in the dark. A ship, or perhaps a construct, larger than a moon, organic in shape and seemingly inert. Kaela stared at the thing through the viewport. That's not a relay. No, Rhys said. That's a seed. What kind of seed? The kind that grows into a signal factory. If it goes active, it'll blanket an entire sector with scourge resonance. Kaela turned to the crew. Prep the analysis drones. Bring the data team online. And warm up the ship's main cannon just in case the seed sprouts teeth. Over the next 6 hours, they scanned, logged, and mapped the construct. Its interior architecture shifted as if breathing, but there were no signs of active defense. Kaela descended with the first team while Rhys remained topside coordinating signal suppression protocols, until the drones started failing. One by one, their signals winked out. Kaela stood inside a vast chamber filled with starlight and liquid data walls. Her team spread out, murmuring in awe. Then the walls moved. Back to the shuttle, she shouted. Now she ran, dodging tendrils of glowing black strands that reached from the walls like veins searching for a pulse. Her boots hit the shuttle ramp just as the chamber behind her collapsed into writhing architecture. Get us out of here, she yelled into her comm. Rhys's voice came through steady. Hold on, I'm bringing you up. The Nova Stride pulled the shuttle in and warped out just before the seed began to pulse. Not bloom, pulse. Rhys turned to Kaela, breathless beside him. It's not a ship, it's a beacon. That whole structure was a damn call outpost. Kaela's heart sank. Then who the hell is it calling? A moment later, the ship's long-range array pinged. Rhys froze. Kaela looked at the display. Hundreds, thousands of faint signals flared into view, across nearby systems. All identical, all scourge-aligned. Oh no, she whispered. They were already here. The Accord fleet mobilized within hours. Massive dreadnoughts survey vessels, even civilian freighters hastily converted into emergency aid ships. But it wasn't a war yet. It was a race. Kaela and Rhys became the spearhead, following Scourge echoes, shutting down seeds, dismantling relay nodes before they could take root. With each new mission, the glow beneath Rhys's skin adapted. He grew stronger, more in tune with architect tech, but always grounded, tethered to himself, tethered to her. They became known across the Accord as the signal pair. Soldiers joked they finished each other's sentences. Scientists called them a living anomaly. Politicians wanted to parade them on banners. Kaela wanted none of it. She only cared about the work. And Rhys. One night after a successful mission to neutralize a triple seed cluster in the Fornax Rift, they sat in the observation dome, boots off, drinks in hand, watching a nearby star collapse into a new white dwarf. Rhys leaned his head against hers. "You ever think about what comes after this?" Kaela arched a brow. "After what? The whole saving the galaxy from invisible reality eaters thing?" "Yeah, not really," she admitted. "I'm a little busy." Rhys took her hand, his touch warm as always. The patterns beneath his skin glowed faintly in sync with her pulse. Not alien anymore, just his. "I think," he said slowly after this, "we should disappear for a while. Go somewhere quiet. No signals, no doom, just you and me. Maybe a beach, or a moon made of cheese." She smirked. "You've got a weird idea of a vacation. I've had a weird life." Kaela leaned into him. "Fine, but if you start glowing in public, I'm getting you a tinfoil hat." "Deal." The scourge wasn't gone, but it was contained, for now. And as long as there were stars and signals and things that needed protecting, Kaela and Rhys would be out there, half science, half legend, all heart, together.